My name is Bryon Howard. Last year I raced a lot as I was approaching the age grouping up in this sport of every 5-year increments. And so I raced Great White North, I raced Calgary 70.3, and then I raced Penticton, the ITU long course, Canadian Nationals. And then my goal race last year was Ironman Arizona in November. 70.3, I like that place, I like the run, I like the swim, the bike, yeah. Had a good swim, got on some fast feet. That's what I like to do. I'm just a fair swimmer in the pool, and then come race day in open water, I like the fresh air, I like the morning sky and the sun coming up, and I tend to do pretty well with a wetsuit on. So, you know, I take off at the front of our pack when I can and just try to hang on to those, you know, bubbles in front of me and don't get too concerned about getting knocked in the head or kicked or anything. And so just follow along. So I had a good swim, but I don't remember my time exactly. The bike, I felt pretty well on the bike. No incidents, no flat tires, which was sort of coming off a lot of flat tires last year and the year before probably. So that was good. And then the run, I don't really remember the run, although I got it done, and I don't think my time was spectacular, but I ended up finishing, I think, first in my age group. So I was delighted about that. I don't think I really did win a race well, for a long time, so that was exciting. 2 weeks earlier, I was out on a bike ride and didn't eat. I was just sort of practicing becoming fat adapted, this new trend. And then I had some injury in my ankle a little bit, like just a scrape and that. But no, I didn't feel any injury in the Ironman really. Up till now, I've recovered fairly quickly from this sort of thing. So I don't remember doing anything other than, hydrating well and getting back into my regular diet, which is, probably pretty healthy anyway. And a little more sleep, a little more relaxation, and probably not a lot of training afterwards for a little bit. I tend to stretch a little bit and basically swim. I think swimming is a great exercise, and I think that I have a lot of thanks to swimming for keeping injury-free. Since I hit 50, well, I hit 50 in November, I've heard of friends and everything all along, I'm people saying in their late 30s, I'm an old man. I never really experienced that kind of, decade setbacks at, late 30s and mid 40s or whatever. So, but it seems to hit me with a vengeance. So since really a lot of training, a lot of racing last year, and I feel like I'm okay, this is what people are talking about. It's just like, not being fast, having aches and pains and not maybe recovering as well, and just not being able to hold the power on the bicycle. My times in the pool are just seem really slow, and running is just like a big grind, big effort. So that's what's changed. I don't know why.
My name is Doug Johansson. I've been doing triathlon for 7 years. This is going on to my 8th. I've been doing Ironman since 2010. Done 6 full Ironmans now and 27 halves, plus another 10 marathons or so beyond that. A friend of mine actually was doing Ironman Canada in 2009. I went out and helped and volunteered for the race. And basically during that day I got hooked on the concept of I can do this too. Originally I thought it was absolutely ludicrous that anybody could do this sort of distance in this sort of day. And I just thought it's impossible, it's just impossible. But then you see pros, you see age groupers, you see mid-level athletes going through, and you can't believe that it's actually attainable, and it is. I really didn't know what to expect in triathlon in terms of how much my appetite would drive me forward on it. Would it be a one race and out type of event? Because a lot of my friends just did that. They did the Ironman and said, wow, that was neat, bucket list, we're done. But for myself, it just kind of got better and better in terms of, I can do this faster, I can train harder. There's mistakes that everybody makes on every race, but as you improve upon those and try to hone down into, how to do it better, that's when you start to realize that, okay, I enjoy it, I enjoy the training, but really the racing is the fun part where you really get to put it all together and try to execute on the day. And it's not always possible, but you try your best. As I got into triathlon, I got the typical injuries, the plantar fasciitis, occasionally get calf muscles that are really angry with you, and you have to go through some, stretching exercises and strengthening probably. Of late, I found my glutes were not firing properly, either on the bike, and that impacted my IT bands, pulling onto my knees and really feeling the aches and pains in your knees. And I never had knee pain all through the years. And one might say, well, it's just from running, but it's not. It's from running improperly, or at least having some degree of imbalance that's causing this issue. It's not just worn out knees. So today I'm here at the sports conditioning studio, talking to Marie about how to stabilize my core, how to stabilize some of the injuries that I've received over the last year, or enjoyed over the last year, I should say. The concept being just how to get better throughout the midsection and how to avoid these injuries going forward.
Welcome to the Sports Conditioning and Pilates Lab at the Doctor in Training and Racing. My name is Marie Mikulski, and I am a Pilates instructor and sports conditioning coach. Today we're going to be looking at a triathlete. One of the things that I like to do is just take a look and see where we can maybe improve on their efficiencies and movement, maybe challenge them to think a little bit differently, and really try to connect their mind to their body and how they're moving while giving them sport-specific challenges and souping up their exercise routines. All right, so welcome to the Sports Conditioning Lab.
Thank you.
Sounds like you have quite a busy training schedule and that you're kind of back on track for some events this year.
Yep.
So just a quick overview of kind of what your training week looks like. So maybe just what your volume is like and how often.
Okay. So currently I'm pretty much training 7 days a week, and that's fairly new to me. Like, I don't think I've ever done that. My long swims right now are like 1,500 meters, or maybe 2,000. So that's like really short.
Okay, so the volumes come down on the swim. And
then a run, I've been running on, actually there's nothing really that regular. I've been traveling a fair amount as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm doing probably like 3 runs a week, maybe on average 1.5, 2 bike rides a week. I try to stretch like 15 minutes a day, and I try to do that 7 days a week, and I might do it probably I do it 3 times and maybe 4 times a week, like for 15 minutes. Just a little stretching and a little bit of core, like all within that 15 minutes. Want me to lie down and show you this exercise?
Yeah,
that I
show me
like?
what do you like, and let's see if we can.
So when I run, or actually I do this fair amount.
Yep, so some classic hip extension type stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And I do that 15 times. And I do the other leg.
So let's do that, but let's make it a little bit more dynamic for you.
Okay.
What we're gonna do is we are actually going to give you a dynamic glute exercise, followed by a dynamic hamstring exercise, and then we're gonna give you some lengthening activities for your shoulder girdle. Okay, glutes. So we're not really going to completely revamp your glute exercise. Single leg extensions are great. They're extremely good for runners. They're really good as a pre-run activity. So you want to think of activating your glutes and getting things firing so that you run with that sort of hip forward position to avoid fatigue. Now that's just better form. It's easier on the body, less impact. You're not breaking and stopping in between each step. So you've got a good thing going with that. So we'll just give you something different to do just so you're not bored of it. Okay, so hips are going to go on the ball. All right, so this activity is the same idea. Okay, you're gonna think broad through the chest, so lift through your heart a little bit so your shoulder blades are apart. Heart. Lift this up. There. And notch your face. There you go. So you never want to wrinkle your neck when you're doing core activities. All right, from here. So instead of just thinking of lifting your leg out, you get slightly better activation if you think about how and not what. So I want you to think about how you're lifting your legs. So the first thing you're gonna do is pull in your transverse abdominis. So think about just drawing your navel to your spine, lift gently, like you're trying to lift your belly button off the ball. A little bit more, take a breath in. Blow out a birthday candle on the floor. There we go, good. And then I want you to think of reaching this leg out of its socket, lengthening it out and then lifting it up. And you only get to lift as high as you can keep this area of your back quiet, hence the ball. And then lower back down. You're not gonna quite unweight it, and then you're gonna lift it back up again. Good, so the pattern we want to see is 1, 2, 3. So we want to see abdominals first, support, then the glute fire, and then the hamstring. And the, yeah. Glute fire. You got it. So you can even think that. You can think 1, 2, 3, and then go. And while you're doing that, the rest of this is just staying really quiet. You're gonna feel response in your back, but it should be almost an imperceptible response. So somebody from far away wouldn't see tension in your back or tension in your neck. So we're gonna give you an exercise that you can partner up with, or if you have a really solid couch, you can always tuck your toes under the couch. These are a pretty classic exercise. They seem to have been long forgotten and are really super functional for strengthening hamstrings. Okay, so these are Nordics. I don't know if you've ever done them before, but you're gonna come up into a high kneeling position.
High kneeling position.
So up high on your knees.
Oh, and then.
Yep, and you're gonna keep your hips forward. So glutes are already on, so that's great. So glutes are gonna act as a stabilizer. I'm gonna spot you, and you're going to hinge forward from the knees. Now you can always pad the knees more. Hinge, and then pull yourself back. Don't let it go to the point of a break. Good, so just a little.
Very far, is it?
It doesn't have to be far to be good. Awesome. So these are just a nice, quick, down and dirty way of getting the hamstrings working. Next up, let's look at your plank.
Okay.
So again, planking is just a really common activity, really important for cyclists, okay? Especially when we're in that TT position, because essentially you're in a plank. Okay, an Ironman is hours and hours of a modified plank. So we want to make sure it's a really solid plank so that you don't fatigue, okay? So show me your plank, and then again, it's not that it's wrong or right, we're just gonna give you other things to think about so that you're not getting bored of it. So a lot of people think of plank as all the flesh of their body in one line, and you wanna have X-ray vision. So you wanna think base of the skull, shoulder joint, hip joint, center of the knees, heels in one line instead. So if you let your bum come down too low, your lower back takes a beating. The other thing you want is support from the lower half. So you're gonna actually squeeze your heels together for me and energize through your legs. So you're gonna think about squeezing a $100 bill between your knees. Big heavy wind, don't let it go. Good. And then you're gonna turn your glutes on for me. So yeah, turn them on a little bit more and lift up just a little bit. So they shouldn't sink you down. They should almost just think about, lifting everything up. Then from here, you're gonna lift your shoulder blades, your chest through your shoulder blades a little bit more. So pull away from my finger. Perfect, and no wrinkles in the neck. All right, so now you've got a little bit of a space in front of you here. So I want you to think about being as steady as you can, and you're gonna reach one arm away from you like you're gonna take a gel from your buddy riding by. So reach forward, grab that gel from your buddy who's kind of started to pass you, and then bring it back. Bring it back home and see if you can regroup and refine that position. So strong through the legs, strong through the glutes, lift it through the chest, and reach with the other hand, and then bring it back. Good, and then reach. So just creating a little bit more activation, making it a little bit more dynamic. This would be a much more dynamic plank for you. It'd help you prevent fatigue when you're constantly dealing with those buffeting winds. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming in today. Welcome to the Sports Conditioning and Pilates Lab at the Doctrine. I understand that you're here today to maybe look at some of the training that you do and seeing if we can add maybe some ideas and some focus to some of the areas that you're hoping to challenge yourself with to help enhance your sport.
Sure. Well, thanks. Yes, exactly right. I've been having some glute issues throughout the last year or so. I also have a shoulder impingement that's really causing me some pain as I swim. As you get up into beyond 3,000 meters, you start to really feel the fatigue coming into it. But the glute issue is really the main concern because I think it's affecting my IT bands and pulling on my knee and affecting my run.
The research is definitely showing that a lot of knee issues are actually stemming from unstable hip movement or maybe an improper firing pattern at the hip. So we can definitely take a look at that and maybe give you some ideas for strengthening. You've just had a recent surgery on your foot, so we're going to stay as far away from that as possible.
Okay.
We'll have to maybe modify a little bit and see if we can come together with some ideas without having to put any weight bearing on that, and let that completely heal first. And then once you get the doctor's okay, then we can add the lower limb stuff back in.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, well, let's give it a go and see what happens.
Let's do it.
All right, so you said one of the issues you wanted to take a look at is maybe glute activation. It's a really good idea to get some pre-firing happening before you go for your training. So think of the activities that I give you sort of as pre-activation or active lengthening post-workout. Okay, so the first one we're gonna do is a pre-activation activity. I wanna see how you do it first. So you're gonna go ahead and lay down on the mat. And again, we're gonna be very careful with your foot. Bend your knees and put your feet flat on the mat. And you can just, you know, we're gonna cheat it a little bit today, but normally we would have the weight equal on both feet, but you definitely don't have to do that for today. Okay, so what I'm gonna have you do is just do a shoulder bridge like you would normally do, maybe like in yoga class, like you mentioned. And then come back down, however you would normally come back down. Okay, and then up you go. And then come back down. Okay, so I'm gonna get you to go up and hold now. So let me know if your hamstring starts talking to you, but go ahead and lift. Okay, so this is a great shoulder bridge, but we can definitely tweak it to give you a little bit more bang for your buck. So the first thing I would cue you to do is actually maybe not hike into your back so much. So to do that, I want you to think about closing your ribs a little bit and then just drawing your abdominals away from my fingers. Good, so you're almost kind of sandwiching yourself on the front half of your body, and then you're gonna think about picking up to your glutes just a little bit more, so you're opening up the front of your hip. Okay, and we definitely want the knees to be running in straight lines away from you. Your feet are not in a bad spot. You could bring them a tiny bit closer, but you just don't want them too close to your body, right? Because we want the hamstrings and glutes to be holding and lifting you up, okay? So now you're gonna just lower your hips a little bit, but you're only gonna lower as low as you feel like you can keep your glutes on, and then you're gonna lift back up again. So just some sustained endurance type stuff, okay? Okay, so another area that you indicated that was an issue is a shoulder that was broken and rehabbed. So it's no longer actually injured, but it's maybe lacking in some strength. Okay, so let's just take a look at your shoulder. We'll compare the two, and then maybe take a look at some strengthening activities for that. Okay, so on your back. Okay, you can do knees bent. So let's look at the good arm first, and just so we have a comparison. And I'm gonna get you to slide right to the edge. And again, we're just looking for range of motion. And because swimming requires a lot of shoulder range, it's pretty important actually for a proper catch, right? So you're gonna relax your arm, give it to me. We're just gonna let it go. We'll check it in a couple different spots. So it's got pretty good range there. And we'll check it out here. Okay, when we looked at your shoulder, there's a little bit of tightness and a little bit of weakness in the shoulder. And so we're gonna give you a couple of different ideas to play with. Now, I'm gonna hold the band for you today, but you could tie it, tie a knot in it and close it into a door frame, or tie it to your gym at home or the edge of the treadmill, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna have you do is you're actually gonna draw, or you're gonna pinpoint a clock. So you're gonna imagine you're laying in the middle of the clock, and you're gonna point to 11, and then 10, and then 9, and down the clock like that. But we're gonna keep your thumb up, okay? So think thumb open. And I'm not gonna put a ton of tension on, it's gonna be more of kind of just a gentle connection here. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and just point to 11. So it's not like doing weights. You definitely don't want the tension to be like doing weights. Again, it's more of a wake up activation activity, right? Sure, if you skip a few hours, it's okay. And then you're gonna go back up the clock. Nice, good work. And great work stabilizing through your body as you're doing it too. So you do have to use your core a little bit as well, okay? All right. Well, it was great having you in today. We looked at a few areas. We looked at shoulder stability, we looked at max firing and glute med min stability. And we also looked at challenging some of your conditioning that you're already doing. I think you're doing a great job with your conditioning. And I just wanted to throw some ideas at you, or some different toys to play with in your bag of tricks, so that when you're doing your conditioning, you're working dynamically, three-dimensionally all the time, and just freshening things up a little bit. There are some consistent issues that we find with triathletes. Triathletes are chronically injured because of the nature of their sport. They just have so much volume of the same repetitions of the same activities that we see a lot of overuse injuries. Most triathletes are getting smart about their cross training.
You know, I'm like run, bike, swim, you know. Now I've been recently introducing strength training. I don't really take the time to do maybe massage or hypnotherapy or, you know, all kinds of interesting things. But you know, again, more recently, yes, massage. After a race, if there's like massage there, I'm like all over it and look forward to that. But yeah, I just, you know, I haven't taken advantage of a lot of other services, but I'm certainly planning to now as an aging athlete.
When I look at movement, I'm looking for efficiencies and inefficiencies, but I'm not diagnosing necessarily an injury. So once an athlete is injured, they obviously need to go through the proper channels and deal with that injury with a medical professional. What we're doing is actually layering in and giving them tools for their sports conditioning training to help strengthen their overall body, give them really good connections to muscles that they maybe don't pay attention to as often, and round out a program that they're already doing.